Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you through Zoom today instead of YouTube Live because Mercury retrograde is making it so that I've been waiting for an hour and a half and I can't get on a live stream on YouTube. And I realized that if I do Zoom and upload it now, I can share my screen on the recording and I can show you the astrology chart. So maybe this is better because you can actually see the astrology chart as I'm talking about it. So before I get going, I wanted to just say happy full moon. It's on the Monday, the 17th, 6:48 p.m. Eastern. Full moon is a wolf moon this time, and it's a Cancer moon. And so right away, that gives me a feeling of like the pack, the wolf pack, and needing that nurturing and that protection and feeling like you've got your tribe, your pack, feeling that you've got the loyalty and people have your back. And if you don't, then maybe you are the lone wolf. So I love the imagery of the wolf moon for a Cancer moon. And as you'll see, it also lines up pretty well with how the chart even is, because this moon, this full moon is sitting there all alone in the chart. And now that I can show you the chart in the recording, you'll see it even better. So before I get going, there's a couple things I want to mention that I'm up to. One is if you like my work, if you appreciate the free offerings, I've been out here giving free content for about 20 years. Yeah, online, maybe since 2008. So, 14 years of free content. Anyway, if you enjoy these videos and you want to support me, you can just go to Patreon. I have the link below. It's just a general, support fee. I appreciate it. The second thing I want to bring up, and I'll have a link below, is I have made something that I think is awesome. I call this my Solstice Grimoire. And basically, I designed the booklet and the images so that it takes you from the solstice at Christmas, December 2021. And it has different artwork we had for the super new moon in Capricorn, place to write your notes. There's sometimes I just have inspirational little journal pages and quotes. But there is a page and artwork and notes for every single moon from solstice to equinox. And then I'm going to have another one that will go from March equinox up to summer solstice, which will have probably a few more indications of planetary movement. Possibly I might start to create little questionnaires or little prompt for ways that you can journal. So if any of you are really getting into this astrology, you're just feeling really connected to the moon cycle, or it's helping you to be in tune with the moon cycle, as I find it helps me because I don't get so sidelined into my own story or my own life that I forget to stop and go, oh, wow, it's a full moon already. It's a new moon already. Even if you don't track everything, like, oh, Venus is changing sign, Mercury is retrograde now. On the 14th, it started. So 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde. A lot of people feel more connected to something bigger than us, something bigger than politics, COVID, the region that you're in. The moon is global. It brings us all together under one thing. So I love the universality of honoring the moon cycles. So if you like it too, you might enjoy buying my little thing and keeping your notes and writing down full Cancer moon. This is what I was going through. And then a year from now, when it's a full moon in Cancer again, you can say, oh, that's interesting. On the full moon in Cancer in January, I tend to be going through this stuff. Or in in April, I tend to, when the new moon is in Aries, oh, I see a pattern. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you start to see patterns in your life, regardless of whether they're lunar or not, patterns tell you, oh, interesting. Now you can have a little more control or a little bit of detachment from whatever that pattern is. Then that's the way we break any kind of cycle or habit. So this is just bringing it to the planetary level, or maybe a bigger picture, bigger patterns than, oh yeah, typically when I get home from work, I eat something I shouldn't, or whatever other habits you might be working on. Speaking of which, Cancer moon is so emotional. Cancer rules the stomach. Emotional eating, or like that latest TikTok, emotional damage that's out there. If you're feeling really emotional right now during a full moon in Cancer, well, yeah, you're going to feel more emotional regardless of what the emotion is. Some people might be like, woo, I'm feeling wonderful, great, on a high. Lucky you. Other people might be feeling really depressed, really lonely, really angry. You know, Cancer moon brings out your deepest feelings. Sometimes they might be feelings you've been suppressing for quite a while. So if you're suddenly in a mood that you can't see why, nothing, you know, you run through your life, is there anything that's really happening that, okay, well, ask yourself this and be honest. Oh, have I been pushing down this feeling in general for a while? If you have, and you feel okay, it's a good time to let it out. Find that safe pack. Or if you don't have that, guard your solitude. Keep your bubble, create the bubble, the safe space, and let yourself let some of it out. There's an enormous emotional pressure when the water sign moons are full. Emotional pressure. And it's quite interesting and, you know, at the same time, very sad, but interesting that as we're going into a Cancer full moon, we have a tsunami that just broke. An explosion, an underground volcano, underwater volcano, pardon me, near the Fiji Islands, Tonga. So there is tsunami warnings for Japan, Hawaii, Australia, the west coast of the US and Canada. This is like, it's awful. It's just awful. And I hope everybody, I really hope as many people as possible are safe and don't go through too much damage from it. I'm praying. And at the same time, I have felt this one coming. I don't remember when exactly, but sometime over the fall, I kept getting the message that there would be a tsunami, an explosion in and around Japan underwater. I didn't know the month or how big, but I did sense it. I wrote it down a few months ago to a friend, another intuitive. And it's one of those things when you're not happy that you're right, but you're right. And ironically, the Sabian symbols, I'm not sure if I've mentioned those in these videos much, but if you subscribe to my free newsletters on my website, so river.rain.info, my newsletter, you'll get this video, but you'll get a couple other things that go hand in hand with the moon as an email. One of the things I put in there is called the Sabian symbols. And they are allegories or little stories for every degree of the zodiac. And we use them predictively. And sometimes they turn out to be bang on and literal, and other times they're metaphoric. They're symbolic messages. But I shit you not, my friends, the one for today, for this full moon, 27 Cancer, is a furious storm destroying nice houses. Can't make this crap up. I mean, this is the thing with astrology, though. You can't rely on these things to match and be literal like this every single time. Many times they're not. They're subtle, they're metaphoric, they don't happen at all. But I tell you, sometimes they're so precise. We couldn't have made this stuff up. So Cancer moon, thinking about your tribe, your family, who's nearest and dearest and closest. Cancer rules the stomach. Like I said, emotions and emotional eating is a big thing with Cancer. Cancer rules the family. Cancer rules the home. And it's a water sign. So we're going to pray, send out your good thoughts as much as you can to people, that they stay safe, they find higher ground, and there's not too much damage for people. I don't know what to say anymore when it comes to natural disaster. I just really hope that people take the warnings and get to safe ground quickly. So that being said, if you are not in those regions and you're listening to this, I wonder whether you can find a parallel or a metaphor in some part of your life. Is there a tsunami of feeling coming up in your life in any other way? It could be an emotional tsunami if you're suddenly feeling grief about something. It can be literally a watershed moment if there's something going on in your body that relates to water or fluids, kidney related, bladder related, even the blood perhaps. Is there anything in and around you that feels like, again, a tsunami is like an inundation of water, an inundation of emotion washing over you? It can be a lot of things that you might be thinking about and considering. If we were to look at, let's say, something in the news that would fit a tsunami as a metaphor. So it's not literally the water, but it's a metaphor. Think about the decision of the Queen to excommunicate her own son from his title so that he can stand trial in the US. That's a tsunami for the royal family, for Prince Andrew himself, for the case at large, for the victims. That's a sudden whoosh inundation, right? So that's the kind of thing, not everybody, hopefully, thank God, is going through this level of drama. I hope for you that you're not. But if you do feel a spike in your emotion during a Cancer moon, well, it's normal. So just maybe expect that of yourself. Take good care, try to rest, try to eat well, all that stuff. Get extra sleep if you have to. Yeah. All right, I am going to dive into the chart now, and I'm going to share my screen so you can take a look at the chart with me for a change. Here we go. So I will teach a little bit about how to look at a chart since we have it. So if you were to imagine that the chart is like a clock. Here's 9 o'clock over here. Can you see the cursor, I hope? 9 o'clock is over here where you see AC. AC is the ascendant line. That means the rising sign. So I do the chart, as you can see, for New York City. I just picked New York because I'm in the Eastern time zone, and I want it to be relatable for people in the Eastern time zone. So if you are in a different time zone and you're an hour before or after, or a few hours if you're in the UK, the rising sign is going to be different, but the basic planetary info is going to be the same. So 9 o'clock is the AC, and we have a rising sign of Leo. Now, over here, this little circle with a dot in the middle, that is the symbol for the sun. The sun is at 27 degrees Capricorn. And as you can see, as always, the sun and the moon are completely opposite by a degree exactly when there is a full moon. So the moon is at 27 degrees Cancer over here. Sun is 27 degrees Capricorn over here. Now, Pluto, you see it looks like a P. Pluto is at 26 degrees Capricorn. Pluto conjunct or on top of the sun is extremely powerful for all kinds of things. Now, I mentioned Prince Andrew and the Queen. Definitely challenging powers that be, patriarchy at its like the royal family and patriarchy, power structures, authority, and then you've got the moon in Cancer, the family and the pack and the tribe, alienating, someone from the tribe who's got to go it alone. This is very apropos for that story. It's probably, it might be fitting for other things as well in your life, but it's a pretty tough one when it's like Cancer Capricorn, because it tends to be this David and Goliath kind of feeling, like this monstrous sort of cold, authoritarian, rule-based, power-based, rich, loft, this kind of energy meets the little, please, could I have some more? Could I have another bite of food, please? Kind of vulnerability of the moon in Cancer. It's like an overbearing, scary parent and a tiny, vulnerable child kind of energy. Now, obviously it can evolve from that, but that's sort of classically what it can feel like, especially when Pluto is sitting on the sun, making the Capricorn side extra powerful. That little moon in Cancer, when it feels vulnerable or shaky, or it feels emotional, it feels misunderstood, it feels nobody's hearing me, nobody cares about me. And this overarching power dynamic, which, if you're living here, if you're living in Quebec, you feel it with all the rules and the lockdowns and the curfews and the fining people who don't want to get a vaccine, and the heavy-handedness of the rule, of that we're seeing, the overarching power of these, the drug companies and people profiting off of this versus, perhaps the average person or the vulnerable could be the moon in Cancer. Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm not going into like COVID politics. I'm just saying that would be a David and Goliath theme that's going on in society around us right now. You might be feeling it more personally in your own social circle. You might, if you feel like you've got a good crowd around you, or whether you feel like you're breaking free. If you feel close to a family or close to a pack of people that you feel like they're a family, or a lot of people might be feeling very alone with the moon in Cancer, because as you see, it's just sitting over here all by itself. Everybody's over here. You've got Saturn in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, Sun and Pluto all sitting over there together having a good time. Well, they might not be having a good time, but they're all together. Then you've got Venus over here in Capricorn, not too far away from this. Everything's on this side of the chart. The moon is all over here alone. So let's talk about a couple other things that are interesting about astrology charts. So look at this line here, it runs top to bottom. So sort of 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. 12 o'clock here, it says MC. That means median coli. That means it can often indicate the career. Talks about your public life. It can be your work. It can be public visibility in your life. It can talk about sometimes the father or mother, whichever one was more public, meaning, or the one that taught you how to act in public. So that is in Taurus right now, and we have Uranus sitting right there, sort of shaking and waking that up a bit again. So as I've mentioned, Uranus and Taurus is giving us lots of little explosions and episodes and earthquakes in our idea of what is a routine, average, normal day. What is our lifestyle look like? It's supposed to look like our banking, our houses, our commute, our school system, everything that we consider just sort of a staple of society that functions in a certain way for it to flow with the economy and finances and basic day-to-day routines that we take for granted. That Uranus is going, no, we're not doing it that way anymore. So now Uranus is hitting this again, and it's hitting it in a way that we're all going to see it. So again, kids here on the 17th, most places are back to school. Could we see, pretty emotional wake up and shake up kind of week with back to school, plus all these different changes and rules and COVID, and possibly could we see, other disruptions? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. Now, why I bring up the MC line versus the 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock line, ascendant and descendant, is it splits the chart into quarters like pi, right? Now, any planet that is above the horizon, so above this AC/DC, yes, I know, AC/DC. Anything that is above this line is said to be what we are more conscious of, the horizon. So we have this beautiful Jupiter in Pisces in the 7th house. This is great for this chart, for this time, because Jupiter in Pisces is ultimately creative, inclusive, and very compassionate, and understands and can see intuitively through things and into people, but in a way that it says, oh yeah, I see through that person, but I see who they are, and I'm just gonna be nice to them, or I accept them how they are. That's just who they are. So we have this beautiful year with Jupiter and Pisces coming that we just began, of a lot of inclusivity and compassion for people, and we so need it with everything going on. But now in this chart, it's in the 7th house of marriage and partnerships and intimate relations. And so this is wonderful when you've got a Cancer moon, even though they don't make, as you see, they don't make a line to each other. They're not directly supporting each other, but they are supporting each other energetically, meaning if you're feeling that aloneness of that little Cancer moon, you feel like a lone wolf. Well, if you reach out, or you should be able to find the right kind of emotional support, or people that will take a moment or understand where you're coming from when Jupiter's in Pisces. So Neptune is also above the horizon. Neptune is in Pisces as well. So we're aware again of like those Neptunian energies. Neptune rules Pisces. You've got two things in Pisces. So it's like that double kind of creative and compassionate, and also Neptune a bit escapist. Some people just find the world too much. They're just going to escape to something else, to their TV shows, isolating themselves in their room, don't want to hear about anything, never want to watch don't want to know what's going on in the world because it's too much. So they're escaping. Or some people, Neptune in the 8th house, they might escape into other addictive problems. But the also positive side of Neptune in the 8th house is a lot of people might be retreating or reconnecting to their spiritual side, meaning maybe they've resumed their prayer, maybe they've resumed their yoga, maybe they're strengthening their reading, their meditations, some core sense of faith that they're, connecting to and looking for. This is very supported in this chart. It's one of the only things that connects to the moon, is this Neptune in Pisces. So if you're feeling isolated and alone or misunderstood, you're going to be looking either to escape that feeling, eating too much chocolate or smoking stuff or whatever you do. But the better thing would be to find your sense of faith and strengthen your sense of the divine and of your faith. So this is an energy we're aware of. Chiron is also here in Aries. Chiron is the wound of the self. Not feeling you know who you are, feeling you do know who you are, but you can't express it, or it's hard for you to let it out, or you don't feel people see you for who you are, or you're always being challenged because you give up your own needs for other people, this kind of theme. And then, of course, Uranus and Taurus, like I said, where we're definitely going to be visibly seeing, again, shifts and rock and roll in our routines and our businesses and our daily lives and our habits and our food and our trucking and all the concrete stuff. So that we'll definitely be aware of. And then we have this North Node right at 0. It is 009 seconds. The North Node in Gemini. Again, North Node is karmic direction, what it's pulling us towards, versus the South, which is down here, which is where we're stuck or where we're comfortable. So what we're comfortable with, according to this chart, 0 degrees Sagittarius, we're comfortable with being a bit more solo, with thinking, well, I know the truth. There's one truth and I have it. And going on the, getting up on the pulpit and sort of spouting off, you know, your version of things to people, sometimes without a lot of tact. Whereas the North Node in Gemini we're being called towards, Gemini knows that things are multiple. Things are always changeable. Things are flexible. You just have to show up and see what situation am I in? Who am I with this time? Where are these people coming from? What are the circumstances? And then adapt. So in my humble opinion, since we've been flirting with this North Node for quite a while, the message to me would be go towards being more adaptable versus digging your feet in and saying you have the truth. No, I have the truth. No, you have. It's pulling us towards, we all might have a piece of the truth. No one has the capital T, truth. So being flexible and adaptable. Now, all of the planets that are on the bottom side of the chart, we are not so conscious of. They play out under the surface. They can pop up and surprise us. They're more suppressed. So what do we see under the surface here? We see that Sun and Pluto, power. And interestingly enough, it is in the 6th house, which rules health and service, elderly people, healthcare, extended family, pets. So seeing some changes and maybe heavy-handedness in our healthcare and health rules. Mercury and Saturn, they're together. Also in Aquarius, in the house of health, there are lots of people working hard on the science, on research and science, and innovation and development. And there are a lot of people working very hard at solutions and restructuring. It's just that they're coming up against a very fixed, old way of being, and it's slow and difficult to dismantle. Now, Venus is also under that surface here. Venus and Mars are in the 5th house. That's pretty creative, and that's actually pretty good for meeting people. Yeah, I don't know whether anyone's dating right now during during COVID right now, but I mean, usually Venus and Mars in the 5th house is either really good for your art, could be interesting for your kids to get busy and do things, or for having them. But it's also would be interesting for dating, could bring more people your way. So when the Cancer moon just feels really isolated and lonely, even if you can't meet people in person, maybe it's a good time to try to drum up some of your old connections, Say hello to someone you haven't in a long time. Check in on people. Maybe you can organize something that's virtual. Maybe you can join something online, because these are good aspects for meeting new people. Again, those aspects are under the surface, so not maybe as aware of it, but we could, if we put ourselves out there, meet some people. And then that south node, like I said, that is at the very bottom of the chart. It's sort of the hardest thing to see, is that maybe are we a bit addicted to being right and to having one way of seeing things. Now, let's take a look at some of these aspects. So wherever you see a blue line, that means it's harmonious. Wherever you see a red line, it means it's conflictual and difficult. So what we have, of course, the sun is opposite the moon and Pluto. The sun and Pluto is opposite the moon. We always have that during a full moon. There's that essential conflict. What we also have is Mars is square Neptune here. The red line, you see Mars and Neptune. So let's talk about this one and break it down. We've got, when you have Mars square Neptune, you have the potential for mistreatment and self-sabotage, going against yourself, other people being sneaky or evasive. So what happens? Mars and Sag is like, just tell me the truth. I can handle the truth. Tell me the truth. Just spit it out. I'll just tell you what I think. And you just tell me what you think. Neptune in Pisces is like, oh, dude, you know, it's really crude. Do you have to say it that way? Can't you just be like a little more? And they'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. People be like, you should really talk to them. Yeah, but if I say it directly, then they're just going to like overwhelm me. I won't be able to say, they're not going to understand like that I feel it a little differently, that it's more subtle than that. They're going to be like, so instead, what does Neptune do? It says, and then it does it behind the back, because they don't want to deal with Sagittarius anger or like overbearingness or enthusiasm. Just Neptune's just too much. So you set it up for like, yeah, I really want to do this. And then the other side of you says, yeah, or not. Right? And if it's within two people, then you get, you know, the one that wants to be direct and full on and blunt, and the other one that's like, no, they want you to read their mind. They want you to sense things in a more subtle way. So what we get here is Mars is, you see this dotted green line? That's a quincunx, which means it's like sort of grinding. It's not completely conflictual, but it's like uncomfortable with the moon here. Because Cancer moon doesn't like things that direct either. It's a little stronger than Neptune and Pisces. It might tell the Sagittarius, oh, ouch, that's not very nice to say, or retreat and be like, oh, you hurt my feelings, or be visibly, you know, have an emotion about what Sag said. So they clearly know we're not on the same page, but Neptune is like, and what's going on back here? What are they actually going to do? We don't know, because they're just whitewashing in the front. So that's a tough energy, this moon. So what's that mean? Like, just keep your radar on if you feel like people are being evasive. It also means don't be too overbearing with people. You know, don't be in people's face about anything, because the Neptune, the Jupiter, the Cancer moon, they're too sensitive for that. You're not going to get an answer or the response you want. What does work well is the moon with the Neptune. So that means for all of you out there who are intuitive, trust it. Trust it. You might pick up on all kinds of stuff during this full moon. more than usual. If you're not sort of feeling buried in your own emotions or mood for whatever's going on, your own tsunami, if you will, you might feel very heightened in your dream life. The moon is in the 12th house. It's the unconscious, the hidden. Your dreams might be very active. They might be predictive. Your meditations might be very predictive. You might go for a walk and suddenly you just get a vision of something that you suddenly realize, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I need to do that. Or you might just be listening to something and suddenly, you know what? I suddenly understand that person, because Cancer moon is just so deep emotionally, and it can feel other people's emotions and understand on a deeper level than almost anybody, really. So you can get that level of depth and understanding, whether it's other people around you or yourself or a situation, on an intuitive or an emotional level. It's not on an opinion or arguing kind of level at all. That's in the chart because we have these other aspects, but your truest info and sensations are going to come much more through your intuition. So what else do we have in here that's of note? Well, Jupiter is squaring those nodes. So again, that's an interesting one. That's quite a large topic in a way, but anyway, the gist of it is this. In a past life, you got used to always being in upheaval and upheaval and upheaval and transformation, and you know the truth and I know the truth, and here's my truth, and I'm going to go bring it to you because that's the truth. What you're supposed to learn this time around is people are multiple, things are diverse, nothing is black or white. I have to adapt and I have to allow. And then Jupiter over there is saying, and we have to have compassion for all, no matter what position they hold. If they're, all of you fit in the same world, the same basket, where you're with your soul, everyone deserves the same compassion and oneness. Whereas the nodes want to divide the one, which is which. So you might be choosing whether to stay in your head or to come from your intuition and your heart. And then we have the last thing here is that the Aquarian stuff, Saturn and Mercury together, which is retrograde. Trying desperately, to think their way through, to put new puzzle pieces together, to find a new way of living, a new system, a new approach, something that breaks the mold, something. And then Uranus and Taurus is like, okay, forgive my little how dramatic that was, but that's how it's going to feel. Like, trying to study, like I almost see Saturn and Mercury with like a microscope, looking at something under a microscope very intensely and getting to a point where I think we have it. And then Uranus comes along and just goes, not so fast, and knocks it off the microscope film or something like that. So what I'm basically saying then is there's a heightened frustration in the air for everyone. Some of it you can say, oh, is it because things are too heavy-handed and because there's too much dichotomy? Yes, some of it is that, but that's the Pluto sun moon thing going on. It's not all just that. It's also these other aspects about, well, what mindset do I hold? How am I supposed to look at the world in a world like this? What side of myself do I access if I'm trying to improve my life? It's bigger than just a political debate, the changes going on. So, but where it's working the best in this chart is reach out to people that you think might be lonely or isolated. If you're lonely or isolated, join something, whether it's virtual or not, or reach out. If you can't, it's a great time to do your creativity, come back to things that give you strength and give you faith and give you a sense of your spirituality, because that is the strongest thing right now in the chart. All right, I'm going to stop the sharing and we're going to do the cards now. So let's do our 9 cards. Let's see what else that gives us for this full moon period. All right, so our first card is the Ace of Wands. So a burst of fire, a burst of energy, a burst of will, a lot of physical energy as well. So if you're feeling angry or frustrated, this could represent it. To get it out of your system in a healthy way, exercise would be great, just not overdoing it. Otherwise, this flame could be an angry flame that you unleash, or you spew out something you didn't mean to say. But the more positive side of the Ace of Wands is that you suddenly have a burst of energy to do other things that you need to get done. So that's the beauty of intense times, is some people, it just knocks you out, like makes you so exhausted, but other people find a way to ride the wave and surf it. The Justice card is the legal card. So documents, paperwork, leases, contracts, marriages even, official agreements, court. This is interesting again, based on what I said at the beginning about, but that's just one thing. Anyway, sense of justice, sense of, well, if any of you are dealing with anything that you might want to write down or make official or put in writing, but it's Mercury retrograde. So in that case, I would say, read the fine prints. Delay signing things if you don't have to. Otherwise, I get more a feeling that this is justice in a different, like in a bigger picture. Sometimes the Justice card isn't about the mundane, our mundane world of, signing a document. Sometimes the Justice card is karmic justice. Some things that on a bigger level, this life and other lives are being rebalanced, that are bigger than us. So see if you have that sense anywhere in your life. Sometimes you need to take an action, which can be, that Ace of Wands can be taking an action, being bold, taking a risk. Sometimes you have to do stuff that people don't understand. But on some level, you feel like, I don't know why, but I need to do this. It would balance my life out. It would balance the situation out. And it looks like it's in relation to a man. This guy, the Prince of Discs, is usually a self-indulgent, can't be bothered to do the full work, does part of it, doesn't do all of it, drops the ball. People should just sort of do things for him. He's a bit lazy, he's a bit entitled. Maybe you know someone like this. It's interesting, it's around the Justice card. Maybe this is somebody that constantly can't get their together, and you say, I'm sorry, can't help you this time. We already helped you the last few times. It's time for somebody to grow up and learn their lesson, perhaps. Could be somebody that you want to be alert to and put things in writing, because if this guy doesn't follow through, or he's a bit entitled, so maybe he's a bit greedy, so maybe you can't 100% trust what he says. So maybe the Justice, you want to put stuff in writing, protect yourself. Aleister Crowley hated that card more than any of the court cards. All right, now we got the Two of Swords. That's nice. We got peace. We got a truce. So this is interesting because maybe whoever the justice thing is concerning the two of you, those two sides can lay down their swords and talk and work something out, which would be great. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles, or discs, same as him with the discs, but she is mature, she is powerful, she's like a business lady or a business owner, or she's in charge of something, she's in charge of money, she's financially secure, she's worked hard for it, she has people working for her. So if that's you, if that's someone you know, let's just see how that factors in now. We got more money. 10 of discs can be inheritance sometimes, investments, loans, a chunk of money that comes all at once, a payout, a buyout. Possibly it's this this queen who is offering money or buyouts, or she could be on the receiving end. And we've got Aries, Venus and Aries, 4 of Wands. Not quite sure how to interpret that now, because this is a card of like putting yourself first, taking care of your own interests, but not in a selfish way, in a good way. So it's looking like a good outcome for whatever this matter is of justice. And of course, card of change. Just says change. Jupiter in Capricorn, things always change. Dark and light. Very sort of peaceful, but nothing much to say until we see what comes after, which is the 5 of Swords. 5 of Swords is, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many conflicting opinions, fighting, arguing, breaking up. I'm going to pull one more card because this isn't clear. And look at that, the Wheel of Fortune. One more. And the Disappointment. Okay. You know what? This is crazy, but I feel like this reading is saying somebody's about to get what's coming to them. Looks like there's a lot of money and a lot of legal matters and paperwork around. And if it's not paperwork, then it's some sort of karmic justice here. Because the Wheel of Fortune with 2 5s around it is like, okay. Things don't end well, but it sort of feels deserved, or like that's the way it's supposed to roll. So you may know, or you may hear this on, could be in the news in and around us. Could be somebody that you know. Could be something within your city, your town, or even your family. But it seems like if there's something that's been really overdue, somebody has not been stepping up to bat, has not been accountable, has not been pulling their weight, their share. It feels like they're about to get their proverbial slap. Very interesting. I just never know what's going to come out in these readings. All right, so I'm going to write down, I'm going to figure out what our question should be for each sign. What should our question be? It feels like something really big is about to happen. I don't know whether I'm just picking up this tsunami energy or what, but I just feel something big. You know what? I normally don't get this stuck. I know a lot of you who watch me. I normally don't get stuck for a question, so I'm going to ask the cards to help give us what would help people the most right now as a question. Chariot, okay. Okay. So that's about obstacles. So that's what we'll do. How does your sign need to handle the obstacles right now that you're facing, whatever they are? Oh, that's true. I can't see on Zoom. It doesn't give me how long, what time it is for the recording. Okay. All righty. Ooh, things are flying out of the deck. All right. So Aries, if you have an obstacle in your life right now, what is your obstacle and how do you handle it? Aries. So your obstacle is ironically a Prince of Wands, which is usually very Aries kind of card. If you have an obstacle right now, it sort of looks like it would be a guy who's a bit full of himself, a guy who's taking risks or a bit too spontaneous, not thinking things through, overconfident. Now he has a good side, okay? It's just that it's coming up as the question, what's the obstacle? So the obstacle to me then would be, what are his negative sides? So it's the obstacle here is if you're dealing with someone like this, or maybe you're like this, showing a display of being too sort of reckless, too spontaneous, not thinking it through, and doing it with like sort of a bravado. So it would be, the obstacle could be, if you're dealing with someone like this, you might need to take some different decisions that you feel are more safe or healthy for you. You might want to take him on and confront him, but you might not want to. You might just need to opt out and do something else and not go with him or do things with him. If this is you, then basically it would mean just check your tone. Check the tone of how you're doing things and saying things to others right now, even if you don't change your actions because maybe you feel like you're just fine. But the way you're coming across, if it's not going well, just check that you're not coming across this way to others. Wait, what a heck of a reading this is this time. Okay. All right, Taurus, what is your obstacle, Taurus? You have the Ace of Swords. Not much obstacle at all, actually. So if there is an obstacle, it would be that you need some sort of clarity. You need a clear purpose, a clear idea. You need to feel like a sense of being inspired so that you have a goal or something that you feel you're going towards. If you don't have that, then that is the obstacle. As well, you might be saying, yeah, but I don't know what I want, but I don't see what's next. I can't. So how am I supposed to go for it if I don't know what it is? So that's a tough one because we can't just summon inspiration on the spot. We can't, a flash of like, haha, that Ace of Swords is that aha moment. The light bulb goes on and you're just so clear. We can't force that moment. So what can we do in the meantime? You can spend a little more time to yourself. You can meditate. You can clean up your lifestyle. It's basically all of those things that you need to be doing for self-care. But instead of, banging your head and talking about it to a million people, again, look to things that have inspired you in the past. Reread or rewatch or re-listen to something that makes you remember your truest self, your values, what you care about the most. Go back to things that have uplifted and inspired you and you got to be a bit patient for that. But right now for Taurus, it's really hard because Uranus is just sweeping through your sign and you don't know what's what. But you can certainly still get moments like this during this time of Uranus and Taurus. So just be patient. Okay. Geminis. Huh. Well, that's not much of an obstacle either, the sun. So the sun is only an obstacle if it's too bright, like Icarus, right? You get too close to it and your wings melt. So the only thing on the good side of this card that's an obstacle with the sun is, are you flying too high? Are you expecting too much, too soon, too fast, too big? Otherwise, the obstacle here is joy and innocence. So you can ask yourself, do you feel like you have a sense of joy and innocence in your life, or is that missing? And if you need to reclaim that or regain that. And you can do that by, reconnecting with either kids, literally, if you've got kids, to play more with them, spend more time with them, listening to them. Or you can go back to things that you used to do as a kid. Watch or listen or read things that bring a sense of joy or innocence to them. That's sort of a nice one, actually. All right, Cancers, this full moon is in your sign, so you might be feeling quite activated. So what is your obstacle? The obstacle is the Nine of Swords. So if you were feeling mistreated, verbally or mentally, emotionally abused, spiritually abused, whether it's happening now or you're processing it from the past, this card means you're thinking about revisiting or feeling betrayed or mistreated. So what's the obstacle then? You might say, oh, the obstacle is that people keep mistreating me. The obstacle is that people keep betraying me. But we have to challenge that, because if it keeps happening, then you're also a part of it. So what red flags are you missing? What can you go back and go, oh, that was actually a sign. I should have listened to that. If you haven't cleared the air with, or set boundaries or taken a stand or said how you feel in a previous hurt or betrayal, if you haven't put your foot down with someone who's not treating you well, the antidote, or the obstacle, the antidote to this obstacle of feeling mistreated is be awake for the red flags, set your boundaries, and put your foot down. Demanding respect where you've been feeling taken for granted. Yeah. Leos, what is your obstacle? So you've got the Six of Cups. Pleasure is the obstacle. Interesting. All right, well, I'll just say it. Are you addicted to anything pleasurable, or are you sadly needing some pleasures in your life? Because pleasure is only an obstacle here if you're constantly just pursuing pleasure, meaning addictions to things, but also addicted to looking for pleasure or for an easy way, avoiding doing some of the hard work or the inner work on something. But I'm probably not going to lean towards that with Leos that I know. Needing pleasure is probably more the obstacle from Leos that I know right now. Most of the Leos I know are like inundated with work, 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 and more work. So needing to find some pleasure, have some fun, do some things that are not always duty and work related is really important. And this is also usually a card of physical pleasure. So it'd be nice if you can get some of that. And if you're single, or if you can't, you know, there's always going to get a massage, or if you have access to a hot tub or a pool or something, anything that you find is a sensual pleasure that would help you could be a good thing. Like I said, not if it's addictive and you're already doing this all the time. I'm talking about the workaholic, inundated with duties and obligations, Leos. Book a massage or a spa day, or ask your partner. All righty. Virgos, what is your obstacle? We have a Libra card. Oh no, just kidding. Too many people. That's what Virgo is. This card is like Jupiter in Libra. Everyone's talking. Everyone's talking too much. No, everyone is networking and socializing and exchanging and all over the place and not finishing a thought or a sentence or following through with an idea. And Virgo's like, oh my God, I can't. So look at this green zone here in the middle, where all the swords are laid in the middle, and there's this nice green zone where things are a little more heart-centered instead of like mind is going crazy or the mouth is going crazy. So for you, Virgo, I think it's probably more that Moon in Cancer needs to find a cocoon, needs to find a quiet, safe space. The obstacle would be feeling bombarded, overwhelmed, you might be doing it to yourself as well. Are you scrolling too much all day? Are you chatting with 20 threads of conversations? Are you trying to do 7 projects at once? You know, if you're doing it to yourself and you're bombarding your head, then you got to stop it and create a little safe zone or pare down what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're in and around it, you need to remove yourself a bit from it. So Libras, forgive me yawning. It's so cold here right now in Canada. Oh my God. I just find no matter how much I sleep, I get up and I say, oh, it'd be nice to go back to bed and sleep some more. But I don't. All right, Libra, what is your obstacle? Work. It's a Capricorn card. Mars in Capricorn, productive. Got to be productive. Keep the turbines running. Look at those giant turbines. Look at that pyramid. Look at all the waves it's creating. Work. So is this your obstacle? Are you working too much? Are you workaholic? Is it too intense? Do you need a break? Or Libra, maybe do you need to work? Do you need to put yourself into something and push yourself to be more productive? Which is it? I know a few Libras, and I can't really say I've seen a pattern. Some are always busy. They're always busy with something. But the question mark was really, do you feel productive? Being productive is the obstacle. It's not how much you work. Is it productive, what you're doing? Because this card is just so well thought out and designed. It's like, it's a machine, and it's a clean machine that works and works and works. So you might need to look at your lifestyle or your work style or the people around you or your team or something, and and see if you can get it a bit more into this productive ship shape. So Scorpios, what is your obstacle, Scorpio? The Fool. That's sort of an exciting obstacle, because the obstacle is a brand new beginning, and it's like, you can't tell, am I being really wise and I have this amazing big picture, stunning plan of what I'm going to do next? Or am I about to walk off the cliff, like I'm being a fool, I'm missing something? Or if you don't have any vision at all, that's the obstacle, because the Fool has a vision. The Fool is the beginning of the hero's journey. Think of all the fairy tales and Disney movies you've ever seen. The hero goes off on their own into the woods, off on a mission. There might be a 5-year-old child who's going to defeat the demon. Off they go. That's why they're like the Fool. Are they naive, or are they so clear what they're going to accomplish? So, but if you don't have a vision at all, that's the obstacle. So you might need to do some meditations and visioning. Maybe you want to do a vision board. You know, you can look that up. There's a lot of good examples, but I don't have one to show you quickly. It's like a collage with affirmations of all the things that you want to bring into your life. You might want to just spend time meditating and picturing yourself in your ideal situation, your ideal job, your ideal relationship, and just go into detail about some aspect of your life. Sometimes it takes a while. It takes a lot of work to have a vision where it really feels like an inspired vision of what you want your life to be going forward, because there's multitudinous things to it. So if it's naive, it's like, oh yeah, I want to just have business, you know, so I can like have extra time. And it's like, no, that's being a bit foolish. If you have your own business, you will be working even more for a long time before you have the free time. Or you could be the Fool who has that wisdom. He's been around the block. He's a 22 who's starting a business, who knows full well that he needs to have, or she needs to have, hiring an accountant and a marketer. And they've already got a good gauge of what they're walking into. And this time it's going to be big and it's going to be hard work, but they know what they're walking into. So where are you on this path with your vision, Scorpio? That is your obstacle. Sagittarius, what is your obstacle? 4 of Cups, luxury. Well, this is Moon and Cancer card. So Sag, your obstacle is to step back from fighting whatever cause, pursuing whatever community you're building. Pull back and let yourself feel your feelings. The Moon in Cancer card comes up during a full moon in Cancer. If you're feeling tired or emotional, or like you just you don't have it in you to debate something one more time, you don't feel like keeping up with the latest this and that's like usual, you get invited somewhere you don't want to go, whatever it is, just honor that feeling. Let yourself sleep and rest. Let yourself cry if you haven't cried in ages. Whatever the feeling is, extreme self-care with this one. That's your obstacle. Instead of pushing yourself and suppressing. All right, Capricorns. What is your obstacle? 7 of Swords. You're debating whether to walk away. That's the obstacle. Futility. What the hell am I here for? Why do I live here? Why do I work here? Why am I with so-and-so? What's the point? And futility and the 7 of Swords is usually the card that comes up when people change, job, suddenly quit, suddenly walk off the job, suddenly move to a different city. So your obstacle is wondering, like, is it time to just throw in the towel and quit or go or not? So you can have your moment of clarity about what you want to do. Doesn't mean that you're going to do it tomorrow. Doesn't mean like, oh, I'm not going to walk out of my job tomorrow. Of course not. What you can do is be honest with yourself. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. So I'm going to start looking for something else. If it's moving related, same thing. You don't do that overnight, but you can certainly just sit there and say, I don't want to live here anymore. I'm going to start looking. So it's more like that moment of like making the decision to walk away, and then you'll start making your new plans. All right. Aquarius, what is your obstacle? It's a man. Well, this usually is a very reliable, solid man. Solid, reliable, good with his money, maybe a bit boring sometimes, but he is honest and admirable with his values, has his integrity. You can trust this man. So you're going to think, well, who is this? If the obstacle is that you don't have a man like that around, you need one. You need someone in your life where you're like, that's just such a good guy. I would trust him with anything. I would, if I need something, if I want, the best down to earth, real life advice, that's who I go to. Your obstacle could be related to something to do with this guy if you already know him. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your spouse. Maybe there's something where you feel that they are getting in your way of doing something. Or worst case scenario, the obstacle is that this person is very stubborn. This person's very proud, doesn't like to ask for help. They want to give the help, but not ask. They don't want you to pay, they pay. They want to stay at home. They don't want to be moved. They can be because they have their security the way they want it. They don't want to change. So you could be up against the obstacle is on that side, the stubborn side. So that's a very interesting obstacle to have. Something about the reliable man in your life. Interesting. All right, let's look at Pisces finally now. What does your obstacle look like? The Eon or the Judgment card. So your obstacle, Pisces, is it's time to take a big step forward on something. Now, when I see this card, I always know that this person is going to wish that life would just give them a sign, or something's just going to come up and people will help me, or I'm going to be told what to do. This card always means, because it's like the Judgment Day or the Judgment card, you stand before God and you say, this is what I am. This is who I am. Go ahead, judge me. But that's not what the Eon is about. It's not about God judging you on something. This card is more about coming out of the closet and declaring something about what you believe and what you are going to do and who you are. So this card could come out if somebody was coming out and saying to their family, I'm gay. The Judgment card could come out. They have to stand there. They're declaring something. There's no going back. And other people are going to have their reaction. So what do you need to declare and make a stand that would help you move forward in your life? And yes, some people will love it, and some people, you might get some backlash for it. The Eon or the Judgment card is usually the moment when you're actually ready to say, you know what, I'm gay and I don't care what you think. Or I'm going to quit university and I'm going to do a college course instead because that's where the program is that I want to do. Or, yeah, I'm getting a divorce. Oh, how could you? You know, you weren't raised like that. Because I believe in healthy behavior, and till death do we part isn't healthy, but if I'm with the wrong person. That's a declaration. That's a pretty big one. But hopefully yours isn't going to be as dramatic as that. But if it is, you're going to stand by yourself. Okay. And you'll have people who will step up to help you and be in your corner. And you'll have people that won't agree. That's just life. But it's the judgment card is one of those moments when you see very clearly who's on what side, you know? So they're scary moments, but they're also necessary moments, defining moments. So if any of you are still here and you would like a session with me, please just message me below or reach me at my website, river.rain.info. And if you want to receive my beautiful little grimoire with all the moon signs and a journal, then the link is below. And if you want to support me and my work on Patreon, then the link is also below. And I really hope everybody has a good full moon. It's definitely an intense one, but it can still be a lovely and very productive time if you let it. All right. Take care.